Welcome to the Client Connection, where we help bridge the gap between attorneys and clients to help increase case success. I'm your host, Edith Nazarian, and I practice criminal and immigration law in Los Angeles, California. And today we will be talking about wellness and client care for immigration practitioners in high stress times. To help me do this, I am very happy to introduce Layla Khamoushian. Hi, Layla. How are you?
Hi, Edith. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here. Layla and I go back. We were both wellness liaisons with the American Immigration Lawyers Association. And I'm very excited to have you here to talk about this very, I think, important topic. So, a little bit about Layla. Layla Khamoushian completed her undergraduate Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from UCLA and subsequently earned her JD from Loyola Law School Los Angeles in 2004. After several years of training in the legal field and motivated by firsthand experience of the immigration process, Layla created her law firm focused on immigration law with a vision of delivering creative, culturally sensitive, and mindful solutions to her clients. In addition to lawyering, Layla's passion is to advocate for the health and well-being of all, specifically her colleagues in the legal community. Layla is the past chair of the Health and Wellness Committee of California Lawyers Association and has served on the policy committee of the Institute for Wellbeing in Law. Layla practices yoga regularly, tries to eat fruits when in season, and goes on sunset hikes whenever possible. So I love
Thank
that.
you.
I love the sunset hikes and eating fruits in season. I feel like that's a good practice for everyone to do.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So, Layla, we're going to be talking about wellness for immigration practitioners. And right now, it's pretty. I would say, I think it's safe to say it's a pretty stressful time for individuals in the sense that there's a lot of change happening. There's a lot of
Right.
change, a lot of different policies, and usually when there's change there's uncertainty, and when there's uncertainty that can create anxiety, right? And so when things are different, when things are changing, we don't always know what's coming up. And so that's why I really wanted to have you come on here to talk about this topic, because I do think it's an important topic for, our colleagues to help them navigate, and also all our clients who are going through this as well with us. So yeah, I'm really excited to have us talk about this. So I'd love to hear your take on what's going on and what you think about it.
I need to have a starting point, but I think I'll start by saying that I was practicing during the first Trump administration.
Same,
So
yes.
yes, so I when the election happened and I remembered what it was like since November, I kind of started preparing myself mentally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Although
Yeah.
I did block it out in December, just to take my mind off of it, I think. But since January, for the last month, it's only been a month, it's been a very, very ground shaking, stressful time for the immigration legal community and the most of the immigration clients, right, who are affected
Mm-hmm.
by it. So here's the point of this is where wellness comes in, because if you are an attorney who doesn't have a regular solid wellness practice, it's going to be a very difficult time because the ground
Yeah.
is shaking every day and you don't have a place to hold on to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just quickly, without getting into it, in immigration law, policies change, executive orders come out, um, and it's part of practicing immigration law, and things change with every administration. So every president has new immigration policies, and it's like playing, tennis back and forth between whether it's conservative versus liberal. And it's been like that since, I don't know, the dawn of time. I wasn't practicing during the Reagan time, but from what I hear, it's been back and forth like that for the last 40 years, for the most part,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
hear from some of the legal community that if you're an attorney who's been practicing since Reagan, you've seen this come and go, right? And you have to
Yeah.
adapt, right? But if you're newer, it's probably really hard. It's probably really shocking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you. What you're saying, with each administration comes a different change of policies, different. And honestly, there are different policies, sometimes different opportunities, but yes,
Hmm.
sometimes certain opportunities go away, right? And I've been practicing since the Obama era. So I've seen, Obama, I've seen the first, Trump 1.0, I've gone through Biden, and now Trump 2.0, right?
Right.
Um and each one was different. Each one was different, and it's important for clients, I think, and attorneys to be so apprised of these changes, because you're exactly right. They are constantly happening. One day we are living in a certain world, and then the next day we wake up to an executive order, and now it's a completely different world, right? So
Correct.
we have to be on our toes. I think keeping apprised of the changes, and then informing our clients about these changes as they apply to them is so crucial. But I love what you said about attorneys maintaining a wellness practice, because I completely agree. I find wellness to be so crucial for attorneys to practice, because I feel like if we can maintain wellness for ourselves, we can better help our clients as they go through their cases and their lives. I would love to hear what your strategies for wellness are, how you like to take this approach.
Thank you. So I came to um, understanding or having an awareness around wellness way after I had been barred and licensed. So in the beginning of my legal, um, professional legal life, I, like everybody else, I was a new associate in law firms. I didn't really have the wellness practice, so it hit me hard, and I had to come to it and to the realization that it's either I have to have a practice, I have to start a practice, or I have to leave the law. Okay, so that was I had to make that choice, and thankfully, um, certain practices came through my path. One of which is yoga, and the second one is meditation that has helped me. And everyone is unique in how they design their own wellness practice. There's no one way of doing things, and that's important to understand. So, some people go for a run in the morning, and that's how they maintain their wellness practice. And I cannot run for the life of me, right? That's not my thing, right? And I'm not even going to bother thinking that I have to wake up at 5 a.m. to hit the gym, because that's not me. And I think it's important to know that who you are and what works for you. Um,
Mhm.
I have a walking practice that I actually developed a few years ago through the California Lawyers Association's walking challenge that started. That was amazing. That changed my life, because before that I didn't have a daily walking practice. Okay.
Mhm.
And I can get into that a little bit if people are interested. There's we can have the information later where you can put the link on the website. Anyone's interested, it's always every summer to join a walking challenge and walk with a group of people and enter your steps, and it
Mhm.
becomes really competitive, and it's great for type A personality lawyers, right? Whatever works, right. So those are some of the things that I do. And again, I think that the point that I want to emphasize is that you need to understand what works for you, and there's not one formula for wellness.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think knowing yourself is so important and knowing the things that help relieve stress for you. Because, like you said, somebody might love running or waking up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym, and that's a great release for them. And then for other people, that's actually that actually creates more stress on themselves
There you
than
go.
not. Yeah, yeah, no, I completely agree.
Exactly. And
I
not
love that.
judging, not making judgments about, oh, so and so does this, I need to do that. People are doing intermittent fasting, I need to get into that. And
Mm-hmm,
no, I mean, that
mm-hmm.
may not really work for you.
Yeah.
So it's great. It's a great thing to explore what works for you, and stick to it as a regular, if not daily, but a regular practice that creates some kind of grounding.
I think that's so great. And Layla, that makes me think. I know before we got on here today, you sent me a list of books. And what you just said made me think of one of those books that you want to recommend, which is Atomic Habits, right? And creating,
Atomic
I really
Habits.
enjoyed that. Yes, yes. I really enjoy that book because it helps create habits that will change your life essentially because you are making sure you do things consistently. And I think having a consistent routine is important in maintaining wellness, right? First figuring out what it is that is wellness for you. How do you define that for yourself? And then making sure you implement it whenever you need it on a hopefully daily basis, right? But whatever you need, right? Each person is different. And I read that book too, and when I saw that, I said yes. I definitely recommend that as well.
James Clear.
Um,
So it's Atomic
yes,
Habits by James Clear. Yeah.
yes, yes, exactly. And I think another thing that I would just want to say is trying to maintain balance as much as possible,
Hmm.
um, and realistic expectations for ourselves as well as attorneys who are practicing. So I feel like sometimes, especially in times like this, we feel like we need to constantly do, right? Because there's so much sometimes at stake, right? And I feel like sometimes doing too much, though, beyond what our energy allows, will create burnout, right? And that
Hmm.
actually will be a negative, it'll be detrimental for us and ultimately for our clients. So, I always tell myself, right? When you're tired, stop. If you need a break, take a break, right? Even if it's in the middle of the day, right? You just have to really listen to I think what your body needs. And I think this goes back with what you were saying, Layla, about, each person is different. And we need to kind of be in tune with what it is that we need mentally, emotionally, physically in order to be at our, I guess, top form to really do the work, right? I don't know if you have any
Yes.
thoughts on that or any input.
So
Yeah.
I actually wrote a couple of things down when I was looking at your
Mm-hmm.
list yesterday about balance, and work-life balance. And it's kind of the whole notion of work-life balance is so interesting to me because I think maybe traditionally, whoever started that conversation, they thought this was work and this was life.
Uh-huh.
And then you
Yeah.
have to balance it out. And I've come to understand it as no, that's not how it is. To me, it's your life is a circle and your work is inside of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and everything else is also inside of your life. So, whatever you do is inside of that. So, there is no, if I'm working, it's part of my life. And if I'm working out and walking, it's also part of my life. And it's only when that that part of work takes over the entire circle, or most
Mm-hmm.
of it, is when you're having a problem. Okay. And
Yeah.
then that you just then you're thrown off balance, right? One of the things that I learned during COVID, um, was scheduling became so
Yeah.
fluid and flexible. And I
Yeah.
that was one of the benefits of COVID life. And what I gained from it is that, oh, I can actually see when I have energy, right? So you
Uh-huh.
talked about being tired. So if my energy is higher at, and this is true, sometimes I get, most of my energy comes between 5 and 7 p.m.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Like when other people are out and off and in rush hour traffic, I have the advantage of being in my office and taking advantage of that period where I have high energy. Maybe because I had my second
Yeah.
cup of coffee. I don't know. Right? So I actually can balance it out and make sure that I work those hours where I have a lot more energy than possibly at 8 in the morning. Maybe I'm not a morning
Yeah.
person. And I'm old enough not to judge that anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe I
No, no,
used to
no.
judge myself, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
does that, or I like working on Saturdays because there's no one here and I have less distraction. Can
Yeah.
you schedule your life that way if you have the, I don't know, advantage or ability? I know some people don't. If you work for a law firm, you probably have to do the hours or be somewhere at a certain hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
one strategy. And what is, I'm looking at my notes here, my cheat sheet. Oh, boundaries. Um,
Yeah.
say no.
Oh, that's a huge one. Yeah.
It's a big one, and it's an everyday practice. So for me, it's been so many years where I've just practiced over and over, and it's a work in progress. So I have a implied rule, and now everyone's gonna know because it's on podcast. And my implied rule is I don't respond to client emails, text messages, or calls after 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anything that,
Yeah.
I mean, I see it, and we do have a system where some clients text us, which is fine because it's convenient. But I've told my staff to, we do not respond after 8 p.m. unless it's an emergency. Well, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really practice any area of the immigration law that's really an emergency. I know you do criminal defense, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you may get a call from someone who's been booked or arrested or something, right? At odd
Yeah.
hours,
Oh,
it could happen, right?
yeah.
I don't
Whenever I
do
get
that.
a call from the, facility, this is a, call from an inmate. Yeah. Definitely pick those up.
See, I can't even imagine that. I can't even imagine how you do that, right? For me, it's unfathomable. But I don't do that. So I've always told myself, so what I do, we have priorities, we have deadlines, we have the order of cases that came through. But is this really a priority? Is it an emergency?
Mm-hmm.
Because once you start responding, you make it normal, right? Then it
Yeah.
becomes
Yeah.
normal. The client would expect a response, at 11 p.m. back. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big one.
Yeah, no, I love so many things of what you just said. I completely agree with maintaining boundaries with, not even just with clients, with friends, with, whoever you have in your life in order to maintain your peace, right? And do what is best for yourself. I think sometimes also, with clients, you think, okay, well, I just want to help. I want to be able to, do everything that I can. But sometimes that's even doing that could even hurt their
Hmm.
case ultimately if that means, right, you're burning out or you're not able to be clear headed when it comes to waking up the next morning, right? And getting to work. And no, I completely agree with that. And I've also, sometimes, people call me, but, uh, it just depends on the situation. I've had to tell them, I'm so sorry, but right now I have these things I have to do. I have these responsibilities, and if you'd like to meet with me, right, it will have to be on X date, right? Because I can't do this right now, right, because of the obligations that I have. So I completely agree with what you just said, and then also another thing that you mentioned about, when is your peak time? When is your
Okay.
peak time of working? Right? Yeah, I love how this keeps on going back to knowing yourself, knowing who you are, also being kind to yourself and saying, yeah, maybe I'm not a morning person and that's okay, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
And no
maybe I'm an
judgment.
yes, no judgment, and just really allowing yourself to be who you are, and knowing that, and saying, you know what, this is my peak time. This is when I like to take a walk. This is when I like to work, and this is the best times for me, and they're the most productive times for me. So I feel like even getting a little inquisitive with yourself and kind of figuring out, okay, what is the trend for me? When am I?
Mm.
When is it easiest for me to work? And just, you even mentioned Saturdays, right? I mean, sometimes that is the case, you know. So I love that you mentioned that, because I think it's so true. Another thing that I like to do also to kind of help me stay on track is time
Hmm.
block.
Oh,
That was
yes.
something new for me to do, but you know, when I started my practice, I realized that it was so crucial to keep me on track. And before, you know, I always felt like, oh, time blocking is not going to work because, you know, I can put doing, you know, yoga in the morning or stretching in the morning, right? But maybe I wake up late, right? And oh, you know, then, you know, I missed it, right? But you know, I was talking to my financial consultant, and she was saying, Edith, it's okay. It's okay if you don't, you know, you do 5%. The point is that you put it there. You say,
Hmm.
you know, this is what is important to me, and that's on your conscience, right? You see it. You're saying this is important. I'm putting it on my schedule. And even if you do 5%, you know, even if you do 1%, even if it's just, you know, all that, that's all you can do, that's the best that you can do for that day, that's okay, right? And saying,
Yes.
you know, I don't have to do everything all the time, but these are my priorities and I'm putting them on my schedule so that I know I'm organized and I know what's important, and I'm making the effort to do these things, right?
Yes, I love that. Actually, you know, you talk about time block. Are you specifically mentioning time block for certain activities or time block for work projects or both?
Everything, both. So I put the, you know, they're all color coded. I have this, you know,
Oh, you're one of
app that I
those
use.
people?
Yeah, I color code them. So personal things are one color, work is another color. Yeah, so that's what I like to do, and it's really helping and with organization. And the other thing that I
Hmm.
think is important is systems. Having
Yes.
systems in your law practice that will keep you organized and consistent. I feel like sometimes really making the structure for yourself, even though it might seem rigid, at the same time, I feel like it creates the freedom, because once you know how things are done, then you become more efficient at doing them.
Yes.
And then that helps create more time. And I feel like in this period of time that we're living in, right? Time is so crucial because
Yes.
the more time that we have or we create, or the more efficiency we create, the more we can do, I would say, for the people that we care for, right?
Absolutely. I agree with you. I actually did the time blocking yesterday um, to work on a case.
Uh-huh.
And it just was, I have to review the declarations and put the documents together. And
Mhm.
I didn't have a 3 hour, 4 hour in my schedule to sit and really focus on that case. So I actually did that yesterday where I cleared the schedule, closed the calendar, and I literally had a 4 hour block and I got into
Uh-huh.
it. I actually printed like
Yeah.
100 pages and I really, and I didn't finish it. It's not done, but I got
Yeah.
started and it felt so liberating, and it's such a powerful practice, and I'm really happy you mentioned that. It to be able to, and color coding, that's
Mhm.
amazing. I do it by hand because I'm old school, so
Yeah, but you know, I love it. Whatever works, right? That
right.
I think that's so true. Layla, you mentioned before we started that there was some points that you wanted to go through. I don't know if we touched on those already or if you want to go into
So
that.
I just wanted to quickly get into some of the some aspects of wellness, because I have given this presentation before last year, when I was the past chair of the health and wellness committee. And it is actually it's derived from what the State Bar of California, the wellness CLE webinar or seminars that they conduct, and it's based on the well of well-being. And I wanted to just quickly over what is considered the well of well-being, and we talk about physical wellness, we talk about meditation, and sometimes some aspects of the well-being are not addressed or discussed um, as much as they should be. And basically, the well-being, it includes physical well-being, mental well-being,
Mm-hmm.
mental and emotional sometimes are combined together, occupational well-being, social well-being, and also spiritual well-being. And that could be a sort of a broad definition of what a spirituality is, because it could be a faith-based practice, or it could be you going out into nature and doing a hike and being in awe, and that falls under spirituality. Um, what happens is when you talk to people and about their practices, a lot of times you see that they're really focused on a couple of areas. So they do their physical practices, and they have a pretty good social network, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't have an intellectual connection, or they're not connected to their colleagues as much. So that happens a lot with the solo practitioners. If you're not,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
know you're also a solo, so if you're not intentionally connecting to your community and your colleagues, you may feel really alone in what you're going through. And that's especially true with the immigration lawyers. I've seen it. And
Yeah.
I've also learned, if I'm not intentionally connecting, I could just be, kind of living in the dark and really, really stressed out about what's happening out and with the
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
policies, right? So that understanding the well-being, and I'm happy to share some resources and slides with your audience, whoever's interested later. But just wanted to just quickly touch on that before the time ends.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think you brought up you brought up some really great points, and I think being social and being connected with colleagues, especially right now, it's so important because in our field, you know, um, like you said, we're solos. It's just us. But then hearing about stories from other colleagues, maybe
Hmm.
something happened to them in a case, and being connected to that and getting the information. And then you say, oh, okay, this happened, right? So now I'm aware that this is what's happening, right? In cases, this
Yeah.
is how the government is adjudicating cases, for example, or this is the policy and this is what we need to look out for, right? And being part of that community and just always, I would say, being plugged in, right?
Yes.
Especially now, with changes happening is so crucial. And I know, I would say we're good at that. We have
I think
connections with,
I think you
yeah.
and I are pretty good at that. And but we have to also, I feel like sometimes I get so busy at work, then I do fall off the grid, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
connecting, so I don't know what's going on. And just sometimes a simple text message. Oh, have
Yeah.
you been to court? Have you been to court in the last 2 weeks? Have you noticed anything odd?
Yeah.
Or I just had an interview last week at USCIS, and this and that happened. Something as short and simple as that can
Yeah.
keep you plugged in. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that so much. Yeah. So I guess at this point, I would like to have us discuss some tips for clients, some tips for
Hmm.
client care, right? And what we can do as immigration practitioners when it comes to helping our clients navigate this time, right? And what they
Hmm.
can also keep in mind as well. Yeah, and I feel like with changes happening, policies changing, clients. I know I've had a number of clients reach out to me saying, what's going to happen, or I'm nervous, or I'm anxious, and I've always reached out to them, as soon as possible. So what I do is I reach out to them and then I reassure them of whatever is true, right? And I let them know, look, things are changing, but we're in this together, right? And
Yeah,
letting them know that I'm on their side. The attorneys that they have hired, we're on their side and we're helping them. And we're doing everything that we can to keep apprised of the situation and therefore help guide them in the best way possible. We're steering the ship, right, through these choppy
yeah,
waters.
yeah.
Right. And then, I've been doing my best to send out emails with new information or things that I learned so that I can keep clients informed, and then always letting them know, you can contact me if you have any questions, right?
Yeah.
If you have any concerns, and making myself available to them to make sure they feel like, okay, all the questions that I have are answered, right? So that's what
Correct.
I've been doing. I'd love to hear the things that you've been doing too, Layla.
Yes. So, um, clients, there to me, there's three types of clients. The ones who are on top of everything themselves. So they actually,
Mm-hmm.
if they have a pending case, they also follow what's going on and try to read, and then
Uh-huh.
contact you and have the questions, right? So that's one type of a client, and a lot of times it's good because they're proactive, but it's bad because a lot of times they don't completely understand the whole picture of what's happening. So they read like one piece of information in the news, and then they think that applies to them, but it really doesn't. And
Mm-hmm.
they've already stressed themselves out. So
Yeah.
your job is to educate them on what it is and then how it does or does not apply to them, right? And then there's the
Yeah.
type of client who should be calling you, but they're hiding, um, because that's how they're probably avoidant, right? And
Yeah.
you need to make a list. I actually have a list of, you have a list of different categories of cases and probably a list of different personalities of the clients. That's also good, like a
Uh-huh.
cheat sheet where you say, okay, this is the client who's hiding under a rock right now and the one doesn't want to hear what I have to tell them, and
Mm-hmm.
contact them directly and educate them and
Yeah.
say, hey, listen, um, Mr. or Mrs. So and so, you don't travel right now. Okay.
Yeah. I've done that too. Yeah.
Right. And
Definitely.
even domestically, you're not
Yeah.
going to get on a plane for the next, I don't want to say 4 years, but just keep away from the airport. Okay. And they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Or they think they're above that, because in some cases they have been okay for the last 25 years, right? And and I put that in writing, right? If this
Mm-hmm.
this is what I've
Mm-hmm.
advised you, and this is the date and the time, so if something happens, at least you um basically have done what you need to do as a lawyer. But then there's everybody else in the middle who, you know um you can reach out to, and kind of, there's the clients who've had trauma. There's clients who um are actually not emotionally and mentally doing well, and you need to be cognizant of that. You need to know who your clients are, and if they're going through something, I think a lot of times they may not tell you. Like, I had a call yesterday with a client, and I learned that the client
Mm-hmm.
is has had some a recent mental diagnosis that I should have known, but they didn't tell me, and that actually it would have helped me, or it would help me if I knew earlier. So we had a
Yeah.
conversation about it, but there's shame around that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They don't always. Some cultures don't always talk about mental diagnosis, right? And even if you're their lawyer, right? So
Yeah.
these things are important because we had a conversation about it, and we are going to a USCIS interview, so we had to prepare for that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and all of that, everything I'm saying sounds really overwhelming because it's part of client management. But if you get, like you said earlier, if you get organized with your client list, you know, whose case is coming up, what kind of
Mm-hmm.
people are, you know, like sometimes if you have a client who's organized themselves, sometimes it's really good. Sometimes they're overconfident.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
have one coming up this Friday. This client we have an interview with. He thinks he's got a 100% shot because
Uh-huh.
he's a comes from a science background. He's super organized with his documents. He's got it all color
Uh-huh.
coded, you know, like you said. But he needs to it's my job to make sure he understands the red flags.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
Absolutely.
we're tough. We have a tough job because he's super
Yeah.
confident. And you
Yeah.
know, if I wasn't a lawyer, it would be perfect. But I'm the lawyer with the brain of no, we're going to cover all of our you
Yeah.
know, all the aspects of
Yeah.
this case, right?
Yeah.
So
No, I completely agree with you. Yeah. That's so important. Yeah.
yeah. So does that
I
answer your
think,
question? Sorry, I just rambled on.
yeah. No, no, no. That was perfect, Layla. I think you said some really important things. And what I really like too is, you know, know your clients, know who they are, right? And how you need to act with each client, right? How do you treat each client? How do you care for each client? Because everyone, like we are individuals, they are also individuals and
Mm-hmm.
they're all different, right? There's not one client that's the same, right? So
Mm-hmm.
knowing your clients and then knowing what you need to do for each client and then also keeping them informed whether proactively being whether it's proactively or answering their questions that they have, but then also making sure that you do your job of letting them know realistically what could happen, right?
Yeah.
Keeping their expectations in check and making sure they understand, look, maybe there is a policy change and now this is how your case is, right? And we need to be conscious of that. And now, we have this strategy. Well, now we have to think of, okay, now strategy A may also become strategy B, right? And then strategy C, right? Have backup plans for cases in case things don't go the way we hope, clients hope for. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I've definitely had conversations with clients about, well, now that things are different, we may need to think about doing this instead, right? On top of this, right? So just doing everything that we can to do the best that we can for the client and their case. So yeah, I
Yeah. And
completely
I
agree
have
with
I
you.
have given speaking of wellness advice to clients, I've had cases where I've told a client, oh, you know what you need to do? You need to focus on your wellness now. Do you have a wellness practice?
Yes,
And I had one case years
yes.
ago, a young woman whose case was pending for a long time, and she was going through some depressive episodes and away from her family, and she called me one day. She
Yeah,
said, I can't do this anymore. I'm not gonna wait. I can't wait.
yeah.
I'm gonna go home. I'm giving up. I'm gonna go home. I said, give me 60 days and give yourself 60 days. I'm like, you want to book a
Uh-huh.
flight, book it out 60 days. And in the meantime, do yoga.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I literally, because I wholeheartedly believe in the practice, and I preach it all the time. I said, go to a yoga studio, um, and go twice a week. And twice a week,
Yeah.
8 weeks, whatever, 10 weeks. Um, Call me after that and let me know if you're
Uh-huh.
still gonna fly out. And she said she actually listened. She I can't believe that she did listen, but she did listen and she started a practice. And she's my what do you call it? One of those miracle cases. She did
Uh-huh.
stay. She never left. And what's interesting is that she actually didn't get her case adjudicated for a while after that. It still took
Mhm.
like 6 months or 8 months, but she stayed, and she always texts me. She said, "You told me to yoga, and I thought that was the craziest thing a lawyer can tell you."
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, Layla. I love that. I love that story. So yes, exactly. Not only wellness for attorneys, wellness for clients too, wellness for everyone.
Yes, exactly.
I that it's so important. I this was amazing. I really enjoyed our conversation. I think we went over some really amazing points for people, and yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, this was fun. I love talking about wellness to
Yeah.
colleagues and everybody. Everybody. It's such a fun topic, and I think it's still not discussed enough. People still shy away from
Hmm.
it because they don't think the value is high.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was one of the main reasons why I wanted us to talk about this. We understand the importance of wellness, and we really want to have other people understand it as well. And it makes me really happy that we
And
had this conversation, especially right now. So thank you so much.
thank you for
How
having
can
me.
Yeah. How can people best contact you if they want to reach out?
So, best way to get in touch with me personally is through my email, Layla, Laylak, at klglawyers.com. And if they will email me after this podcast, they can just put the subject, you know, something about the wellness podcast so that I know where they're coming from.
Yes.
And I'm happy to answer questions on any wellness topic, and also our website for clients who might be interested. So it's klglawyers.com. And I
Okay,
have an
wonderful.
Instagram. Yeah, I have an Instagram account where I post my thoughts, and I may get a little bit too political for some people, but if they want to check me out, that's Layla ESQ.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Layla, for being on the podcast, The Client Connection. To all the listeners, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have any questions or if there's a topic that you'd like to have us discuss, please contact podcast at enlawoffices.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Thank you so much. And until next time.